Today, Queen Camilla is happily married to King Charles, but for many years she has had to settle for nothing more than mistress status. She was not the first woman in her family to have a secret relationship with the married heir to the throne. This story of Alice Keppel, Queen Camilla's great-grandmother, is fascinating and full of intrigue. She was one of King Edward VII's most famous mistresses and played an important role in the life of the British court of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Alice was not just a mistress, but a woman who knew how to use her charm and sharp wit to secure a high position for herself and her family. Alice Frederica Edmondson was born on 29 April 1868 in Strathblane, Scotland. Her father was a baronet and admiral of the Royal Navy, so he could provide all his 10 children with a wealthy existence and a decent upbringing. Alice was the youngest child in the family and, according to the British high society, the most beautiful. In adolescence, the girl blossomed and began to win the hearts of men. First, it was the stable boys, with whom Alice kissed in the secluded corners of the family estate Duntrit, and then young aristocratic friends who hoped to someday become husbands' daring beauty. For such loveliness, the girl was nicknamed Coquettish Freddie. In short, when Alice's father decided that his daughter is ready for married life, instantly there was a whole crowd of suitors claiming to her hand and heart. At the age of 23, the girl married the son of the Earl of Albemarle, a member of the British Army's Honourable Infantry Regiment, Gordon Highlanders. George Keppel. The first years of married life of this couple was cheerful and happy. They settled in London, became the parents of 2 charming babies, and frequent guests at social receptions of the Beaumont. Alice and George made a lasting impression on the local aristocrats. The woman charmed them with her beauty, and the man impeccable style and sense of humor. But few realized that the couple's carefree and cheerfulness was only a facade behind which serious problems lurked. Alice and George's financial savings, which had allowed them to shine in the world, were gradually running out. They even had to give up several servants, which in the couple's minds meant only one thing: they were on the verge of ruin. After a short reflection, Alice came to the conclusion that there is only one way to maintain a high position in society and the usual way of life, namely, to get a rich lover. She immediately informed her husband about her epiphany. This may seem strange even to our contemporaries, but George happily supported the idea of his wife. At the beginning of the Kexy century, there was not yet a concept of open marriage, but in fact it was to this type of relationship that this couple came. Alice and George loved each other, but agreed to turn a blind eye to affairs that could improve their financial situation. "I find nothing wrong with what she does," George said of his spouse's extramarital affairs. "After all, she always comes back to me." Soon, Alice had several men who, in exchange for love pleasures, gave her expensive gifts. Evil tongues said that one of her lovers, Humphrey Sturt, the 2nd Baron Allington, was the real father of her daughter Violet. However, there is no proof of this. Anyway, her liaisons with men on the side gave Alice the opportunity to throw the best parties in town. And at one of them, she met Prince Albert Edward, known to his friends as Bertie. He was a 56-year-old heavy smoker and drinker with a waist circumference of 120 centimeters, a consequence of Bertie's fondness for delicious but fatty food. Despite having a wife, Danish Princess Alexandra, and 6 children waiting for him at home, the heir to the British throne changed mistresses like gloves. But the moment he saw 29-year-old Alice Keppel, Bertie lost his head. Just a couple of weeks after they met, the prince broke up with Countess Daisy Warwick, who had shared his bed for many years, ended all his other extramarital affairs, and made Alice his only permanent mistress. Bertie had no idea that while he was blinded by his sudden infatuation with the young beauty, Alice and George Keppel were carefully crafting a plan, a trap for the prince. Their goal was simple: to ensure that Alice secured her position as the royal mistress for as long as possible. First, she studied Bertie's character and became the only woman who knew how to calm the prince during his terrible mood swings, something even Princess Alexandra appreciated. Yes, she was aware of her husband's affair. Second, Alice learned how to satisfy Bertie's sexual appetite. According to contemporaries, this otherwise reserved woman had the bedroom manners of a street cat. And third, she came up with a way to create a financial safety net for her family. One day she subtly hinted to the heir to the throne that her husband was home too often, interfering with their secret meetings. In response, to get rid of George Keppel, Bertie offered him a well-paid position in the government. Alice's husband pretended to take the offer at face value and gladly accepted such a generous proposal. Thus, everyone benefited. Bertie took pride in having secured a beautiful and understanding mistress. Alice and her husband were delighted with their newfound financial stability, and Princess Alexandra, exhausted by her husband's whims, was happy to share some of her marital duties with another woman. In 1901, Queen Victoria passed away, and Bertie became King Edward VII. Interestingly, Alice's position remained unchanged even after his ascension to the throne. She didn't even have to hide from the public because the king insisted that she always be by his side. They frequently appeared together at formal dinners and high society events, such as the Royal Ascot races. As for Princess Alexandra, she viewed her husband's mistress as an ally. Only Alice had the power to make the stubborn king do what he didn't want to do. Edward and Alice's affair lasted until the very day of the monarch's death. This woman managed to bring a sense of peace and domestic comfort into his restless life. Alice once admitted that the secret of her success was a simple rule. First, make a curtsy, then jump into bed. The proof that her strategy worked? 12 years as the king's official mistress. Alice gained a great deal from this relationship financially. As a constitutional monarch living on taxpayers' money, Edward could not reward his mistress from the royal treasury, so he gifted her stocks and other valuable securities. Experts estimate that today, the total worth of the royal gifts given to Alice Keppel would amount to millions of pounds. In March 1910, King Edward's health began to deteriorate rapidly. His body, weakened by constant smoking and heavy drinking, could not withstand a series of heart attacks, thus combined with bronchitis. On May 6th, he passed away. Both Alice and Alexandra were by Edward's side as he lay on his deathbed. The atmosphere at the dying king's bedside was tense. His wife stood apart, casting disapproving glances at the mistress, who was sobbing uncontrollably. But what finally pushed Princess Alexandra to the limit was her husband's dying request. He turned to her and quietly said, "Kiss Alice." The day after the monarch's death, Alice Keppel was made to understand that she was no longer welcome at court. She spent the rest of her life traveling across Europe and the Far East with her husband. Legend has it that in 1936, when Alice Keppel, relaxing at her lavish French villa, was informed that Edward VIII had abdicated the throne to marry American divorcee Wallis Simpson. She rolled her eyes and remarked, "In my day, we behaved much more wisely." Alice passed away peacefully in 1947. George outlived his wife by only 2 months. They were both buried at the Allori Cemetery in Florence.